Kia ora, good morning everybody from Aotearoa, down under. Although interestingly, Aotearoa, New Zealand is also on another map on the top. If people, I don't know if people realise this, it's just a bit of trivia. In the United Nations map of the world, Aotearoa is actually positioned on the top. I just say this because I'm reminded of how in one reality the world might look a certain way, but at the same time there's this other reality, and it can be both at the same time true, up and down. I thought of just picking a card this morning out of my deck. This is Tangaroa. This is our atua, our supernatural ancestor of the oceans and the seas. This is a picture of a aihe, a dolphin here. And I think that's a very apt atua to consider today for me anyway, because Tangaroa is associated closely. He's the atua associated mostly with healing. And now for us, when we go to the oceans and you get into the water, it has a lot of properties that can be beneficial for the body. But also just, Patricia was talking about cycles. I picked up on that idea of cycles. And it also makes me think of how the oceans are so important for regulating our climate, right? We have the evaporation that comes from the oceans, and that evaporation goes up to our sky father, rangi nui. It circulates around Tāwhiri Mātea, our atua of the winds and the weather. It circulates around in his domain. It falls down onto Papatuanuku, the earth mother, and then that water is moved about on the dry land, and then it finds its way eventually back to the ocean. So it's a great reminder of how these massive cycles are always happening, and we're a part of it. It gives me comfort to think that even in really chaotic times, there is always order. At some level of reality in this world, there is always order, even if it's difficult to perceive it. That gives me great comfort because, there are moments when everything is just, oh, what is going on in this world? It is bananas. Those fundamental pillars provide me like an anchor in those times when I'm looking at the world and I just can't make sense of it. I really can't. And I just come right back to fundamentals, That's where my rock of faith lies, in the laws of nature, which are unmatched. I'm also looking at things that are happening in the human world where certain people are seeking to intervene in nature's cycles. For example, with geoengineering, this thing called solar radiation management, thinking that they can darken the skies and reflect light back out. And I'm thinking to myself, how many ways can that go wrong really fast? So I'd like to encourage us, if we can find a moment in our hearts, just to send out some, not a prayer, not a wish, not even a desire, but just maybe a connection with those people who seek to use that kind of technology to disrupt and intervene with nature's wisdom. Let it be known to them. It's probably a bad idea, and we should just let nature work out, what she needs to work out in her infinite wisdom in the way that, she would have it be. And it's uncomfortable for us. I get it. But, like it was mentioned before, every experience has something of value in it. So some experiences, it just takes a bit more effort to find that value, but it can be found. it's a very challenging time for us. The other thing I just want to mention with Tangaroa, Tangaroa has children who can straddle the water and the land. One of our stories is about how a tree, a kauri tree, a native tree, actually came from the ocean. And the kauri tree's brother is the whale, and we know this because there's the bark of the kauri tree is very similar to the whale's skin. And there's a whole story about how those brothers decided, one would stay on the land and one would return to the ocean. Tangaroa has other children like the tuna, the eels. And we know all about how the eels' life cycles, here we go, cycles again. They go onto the land and then they return to the ocean, and so on and so forth. So our world is so adaptable. In 1 minute, we can be a being that has these sorts of characteristics. In another moment, we can be a being that can have a different set of characteristics depending on how we need to adapt to the moment and adapt to the time we're in. So I also, take sort of, hope that we can be as adaptable as those relatives of ours who just have these such supernatural, amazing gifts to be in a world that's ever changing. And the last thing, I just want to remember our good friend Ia, who is in recovery for the condition that she's in, and I really look forward to where we can hear her voice again. She's in our thoughts. I'll just finish with that. So thanks very much for inviting me to share today.